Hey friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to press the bell icon like thumbs up, share up right arrow, and subscribe red heart.
What happens aback a duchess walks into the appearance celebration she can rewrite history? You won't accept what unfolds when Meghan Markle sits bottomward with the ladies of the appearance for what was supposed to be a accepted promotional interview. What started as affable conversation quickly coiled into one of the most explosive confrontations in daytime television history, culminating in Joy Behar accomplishing article that labored viewers' jaws on the floor. Before we get into this absurd story, accomplish abiding you hit that subscribe button and bead a comment below because you're not activity to believe what unfolds. The Hot Topics table was active with apprehension as the cameras formed for what producers promised would be a appropriate adventure of the view. Meghan Markle, dressed in an elegant chrism blazer that apparently cost more than Best People's account rent, settled into the bedfellow armchair with that familiar smile that's launched 1,000 abridged headlines. The studio audience was electric. Phones already recording admitting the no filming policy, sensing article big was about to happen. Joy Behar, never one to waste time with pleasantries, leaned forward with that arch glint in her eye that approved admirers apperceive agency trouble. So, Meghan, let's allocution about your latest projects. But first, I accept to ask about something that's been aggravation me. The Duchess's smile flickered for aloof a moment, her easily aimlessly gripping the armrests of her chair. Whoopi Goldberg attempt Joy a admonishing look, but Joy was already in a bounding swing. You've been actual articulate about your struggles with the aristocratic family, but some people are added your arena the victim card while accompanying aggravating to cash in on your aristocratic connections. How do you respond to critics who say you can't have it both ways? The catechism afraid in the air like a live wire, and you could practically apprehend the aggregate intake of animation from the flat audience. Meghan's media training kicked in immediately, her aspect straightening as she deployed her accomplished response. Joy, I anticipate it's important to understand that speaking your truth isn't arena victim. Aback you've experienced what I've experienced, staying bashful becomes abetment in your own oppression. Her articulation carried that accustomed accent of blood-soaked dignity that had become her brand in interviews. But Joy wasn't a fares-it. Not for a second. Speaking your accuracy is one thing, but aback your accuracy keeps changing depending on which network you're talking to, bodies alpha to notice inconsistencies. The temperature in the flat seemed to bead several degrees. Brilliant host shifted uncomfortably in her seat. While Sarah Honess's eyes darted amid Joy and Meghan like she was watching a tennis match, she couldn't absolutely followed at Meghan's accord began to crack slightly, her smile acceptable more forced. I'm not abiding what you beggarly by changing truths. My acquaintance has been consistent throughout, but her voice carried a arresting bend that hadn't been there moments before. Joy pounced on it like a cat on a mouse. Really? Because aback you were on Oprah, you said you had no abstraction what you were getting into with the aristocratic family. But afresh in your Netflix series, you allocution about researching aggregate extensively. Which is it? Joy's catechism was delivered with surgical precision, designed to betrayal the contradictions that had been bubbles beneath the surface of Meghan's accessible narrative. The Duchess's face ablaze slightly, her carefully complete bluff beginning to appearance cracks. Those aren't contradictions, Joy. You can research something and still not absolutely understand the absoluteness of activate. The emotional impact of what I accomplished can't be captured in any bulk of preparation. Her articulation was ascent slightly, the California air-conditioned alpha to cook under the flat lights. Whoopi approved to steer the chat against calmer waters. Let's allocution about your accepted projects. I accept you accept some exciting things in development, but Joy wasn't ready to let go of the cartilage she'd grabbed onto. Before we move on, I just want to accept article else. You've talked about activity silenced by the institution, but you've given multiple interviews, accounting books, produced documentaries, and accept a podcast. How absolutely were you silenced? Joy's accent was acceptable, increasingly incredulous, and the added co-hosts were starting to attending absolutely concerned about area this was heading. Meghan's laugh was articulate and humorless. Being given opportunities to allege doesn't erase years of accepting your voice suppressed. The actuality that I'm actuality now doesn't abate what happened to me then. Her easily were now visibly trembling slightly, whether from acrimony or nerves was absurd to tell. But here's what I don't understand. Joy continued, clearly on a cycle now. You labored the royal ancestors' citation aloofness concerns, but afresh you've aggregate incredibly intimate capacity about private conversations, clandestine moments, even private buzz calls. How do you reconcile absent aloofness with putting everything out there publicly? The question hit like a bomb. Meghan's eyes flashed with article dangerous. Her mask of composed victimhood bottomward to reveal article abundant sharper underneath. I anticipate you're deliberately misunderstanding the situation, Joy. There's a aberration amid allotment to share your adventure and accepting it distorted by others. Is there though? Joy shot back afterwards, missing a beat. Because from area I'm sitting, it looks like you appetite to ascendancy the narrative completely. You appetite aloofness aback it suits you and publicity aback it benefits you. That's not how absolute activity works for the draft of us. The flat admirers was completely bashful now, analysis they were witnessing article unprecedented. Even the camera operators seemed transfixed by the advanced drama. Meghan's breathing had become hardly labored, her composed exoteric arise beneath the relentless burden of Joy's questioning. I anticipate you're being incredibly unfair, Meghan said, her voice now accustomed to agitation of genuine emotion. You're sitting actuality attacking me aback you accept no abstraction what it's like to alive beneath that akin of scrutiny, to have every chat twisted, every action analyzed. Joy's eyes lit up with the thrill of the hunt. But Meghan, honey, you chose this life. Nobody affected you to ally into the aristocratic family. And when you absentively it wasn't for you, nobody forced you to stay. But what bothers people is that you assume to appetite sympathy for choices you fabricated freely. The words hung in the air like a gauntlet thrown down, and anybody in the flat knew they had aloof witnessed the point of no return. Meghan's face had gone completely pale except for two ablaze spots of color on her cheeks, and her easily were clenched so deeply in her lap that her knuckles had angry white. I cannot believe you aloof said that to me, Meghan whispered, her articulation almost audible, but carrying the force of a hurricane. The other co-hosts looked absolutely alarmed now, acumen that what had started as tough but fair analytic had crossed into article abundant added dangerous, but Joy wasn't a betment down. In fact, she seemed activated by Meghan's obvious distress. I'm aloof adage what millions of bodies are thinking. You had choices. You fabricated them. And now you appetite everyone to feel apologetic for you because you didn't like the consequences. The gloves were completely off now and anybody in the studio could faculty that something explosive was about to happen. Meghan's composure assuredly burst completely. She attempted up from her armchair so abruptly that it about agitated backward. Her cream blazer now channeled from her clenched fists. How cartel you sit there and abbreviate my trauma? Her voice cracked with 18-carat fury. No best the controlled duchess, but a woman pushed beyond her breaking point. You have absolutely no abstraction what I went through, what my ancestors went through. The studio audience gasped audibly. This wasn't the polished media alternation Meghan they were used to seeing. This was raw, unfiltered emotion, and it was alarming in its intensity. Alike the division co-hosts looked absolutely abashed by the transformation they were witnessing. Joy, however, seemed to appetite the reaction she'd provoked. Oh, actuality, we go with the agony agenda again. Meghan, millions of bodies face absolute trauma every day. They lose their homes, their jobs, their admired ones. You lived in a palace and couldn't handle some bad press. Bad press. Meghan's articulation rose to near shrieking levels. They were trying to abort me. They questioned my child's heritage. They collection me to thoughts of suicide. And you're sitting here cogent me it was aloof bad press. Her easily were afraid so berserk now that she had to anchor the back of her chair for support. Whoopi finally stepped in, her articulation accustomed the authority of decades in entertainment. Okay, let's all booty a animation here. This is accepting out of hand. But her intervention abandoned seemed to ammunition Meghan's rage. No, Whoopi. I'm annoyed of taking breaths. I'm annoyed of actuality told to calm down aback bodies advance me. Meghan whirled to face the absolute panel, her eyes blazing. Every distinct one of you sits here day afterwards day talking about women supporting women. But the moment I walk through that door, you let her breach me apart. Sarah Haynes looked genuinely frightened. Her accepted, brilliant demeanor completely gone. Meghan, nobody's trying to breach you apart. Joy was aloof, asking legitimate questions that bodies have. Legitimate questions. Meghan's beam was bitter and sharp, analytic whether my trauma is real, suggesting I chose to be racially abused. Those are legitimate questions to you. She angrier back to Joy with acidity in her eyes. You appetite to know about choices, Joy? The best to stay silent while they alleged my mother names. The best to smile while they printed lies about me every distinct day. Joy leaned aback in her chair, arms crossed, acutely adequate the meltdown she'd orchestrated. The best to sign multi-million-dollar deals while playing the victim. The best to debris your husband's ancestors on international television. Those choices, too, right? The words hit Meghan like concrete blows. Her face cycled through affections so quickly it was dizzying. Hurt, rage, disbelief, an article that looked almost like desperation. You're twisting everything. You're accomplishing absolutely what they did. Who's they, Meghan? Joy pressed, sensing claret in the water. The British press, the aristocratic family, or anybody who doesn't buy your adaptation of events. Tsunami host, who had been silent through best of the confrontation, finally batten up. Joy, maybe we should know. Meghan cut her off sharply. Let her finish. Let her appearance anybody exactly who she absolutely is. She is secular, an accusatory feel at Joy. You're no different from the tabloids. You invite me actuality beneath the pretense of promoting my work, a fresh ambuscade me with this coordinated attack. Joy's eyebrows shot up. Accommodating attack, honey, this is called journalism. Article you might not be accustomed with a back you're used to softball interviews area everyone kisses your ring. The insult landed like a slap. Meghan's face went white with fury. Don't you cartel patronize me. I've given added interviews to hostile journalists than you could imagine. The difference is they at Atomic affected to have some able integrity. Professional integrity. Joy was on her feet now, too. The confrontation escalating above anyone's control. You want to allocution about professional integrity? What about the candor of not trashing your ancestors on primetime television? What about the candor of not arena the chase agenda every time someone criticizes you? The flat fell deadly silent. Joy had aloof above a line that anybody knew couldn't be uncrossed. Meghan's face went through a transformation that was genuinely frightening to witness. The aching and anger crystallized into article cold and dangerous. Did you aloof say I play the chase card? Her articulation was barely above a whisper, but it agitated more threat than any scream could have. Did you absolutely aloof say that to me? Alike Joy seemed to apprehend she ability except gone too far, but pride kept her from backing down. If the shoe fits, Meghan, you bring up chase in every interview, every documentary, every speech. At what point does it stop actuality about amends and start actuality about deflection? The question afraid in the air like a toxic cloud. Meghan stood arctic for a moment, staring at Joy with an announcement of such authentic abhorrence that several audience members confused uncomfortably in their seats. Aback she assuredly spoke, her voice was baleful calm. You appetite to apperceive about deflection, Joy? Let's allocution about how you're deflecting from your own history of racist comments. Should we discuss some of your accomplished statements about black women, or would that accomplish you uncomfortable? It was Joy's about face to look stunned. The added co-hosts exchanged abashed glances, realizing they were witnessing article that could end careers. The action had moved above claimed attacks into genuinely alarming territory. I have never, Joy started, but Meghan cut her off with adamant precision. Never what? Never fabricated jokes about atramentous women's hair. Never absolved apropos about racial bent in Hollywood. Never laughed along a back your actor a company made racist jokes. Meghan's analysis had clearly been absolute and she was deploying it like a weapon. Joy's face was now ablaze. With acrimony and embarrassment. That's completely different and you apperceive it. Comedy is what? Joy a chargeless canyon to be racist. Is that your defense? Meghan was circling now like a predator who had found blood-soaked casualty because that's exactly the affectionate of angle you just accused me of. The tables had turned completely. Joy, who had started the confrontation, activity in control, was now acutely rattled. You're taking things out of ambience and aging them to clothing your anecdotal aloof like you always do. There it is again. Meghan's voice rose triumphantly. Every time I defend myself, it's agey things. Every time I allege my truth, it's playing a card. Acquaint me, Joy, what would it booty for you to accept that my experiences are real? What evidence would be enough? Joy was clearly scrambling now. Her accepted quick wit failing her beneath the acuteness of Meghan's assault. I never said your experiences weren't real. You said I was arena victim. You said I chose my trauma. You said I was cashing in on my pain. Meghan's words came like machine gunfire. And aback I approved to defend myself, you accused me of playing the chase card. So acquaint me, what exactly are you saying? The flat was electric with tension. Alike the aggregation associates had stopped what they were accomplishing to watch the aberrant accident unfolding before them. This wasn't aloof television drama anymore. This was a genuine psychological battleground, and both women were angry for their lives. Joy tried one after most atrocious counterattack. What I'm adage is that you came into this aristocratic ancestor's bearings with your eyes advanced open. And aback it didn't work out the way you wanted, you austere it all down. And now you apprehend anybody to applaud you for it. The words seemed to hit Meghan, like a concrete blow. She staggered slightly, her duke activity to her throat. For a moment, it looked like she ability absolutely collapse. The silence that followed was deafening, and everyone in the flat captivated their breath, cat and mouse to see what would happen next. A fresh article extraordinary happened. Meghan's announcement shifted from blood-soaked to article far more dangerous. She straightened her shoulders, wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, and aback she looked up. There was an animate in her boring that no one in that flat had any time apparent before. You appetite to allocution about a fire things down, Joy? Her articulation was steady, now controlled, but with an atmosphere of pure venom. Let's allocution about what you've burned down. Your credibility, your reputation, your basal animal decency. She took a footfall afterpiece to the hot topics table and Joy aimlessly leaned back. You sit actuality every day assuming to be some best of women's rights. But the moment a woman walks in actuality who threatens your little kingdom, you tear her afar like a vulture. You've just shown anybody absolutely who you really are. Meghan's words were surgical, precise, advised to cut deep. Joy tried to interrupt, but Meghan captivated upper hand that allowable silence. No, I'm not finished. You allege me of playing victim, but what you've aloof done is the real achievement here. You've performed cruelty. You've performed jealousy. You've performed the exact affectionate of behavior that collection me out of one toxic environment and appropriate into another. The other co-hosts sat frozen, unsure whether to intervene. Whoopi looked like she capital to clamber beneath the table. Sarah was visibly shaking. Brilliant had tears in her eyes. But Meghan wasn't done. You appetite to apperceive what I learned from the aristocratic family. I abstruse that bullies appear in all shapes and sizes. I learned that sometimes the most dangerous bodies are the ones who smile while they ache you in the back. And I learned that the abandoned way to accord with bullies is to angle up to them. She was towering over Joy. Now, admitting being the aforementioned height, Joy's face had gone completely pale. Meghan, I anticipate you're overreacting. Overreacting. Meghan's laugh was articulate and humorless. You just spent the aftermost 20 account systematically attempting to abort my appearance on national television. And you anticipate I'm overreacting? You questioned my trauma, dismissed my experiences, and accused me of base my own affliction for profit. If anyone's overreacting, it's you. She turned to abode the camera directly, her media training blame in for what would be her final achievement on The View. I came actuality today to allocution about my work, my accommodating foundation, and the positive changes I'm aggravating to accomplish in the world. Instead, I've been subjected to a accommodating advance advised to humiliate and blackout me. Joy jumped up from her chair, assuredly awed her voice again. Nobody's aggravating to silence you. We're aggravating to get honest answers. Meghan whirled about to face her, and the acerbity in her eyes was so intense that Joy absolutely took a step backward. Honest answers? You want honesty? Here's bluntness for you. You're a bitter, anxious woman who can't stand the actuality that addition younger, more successful, and added accordant than you has absolved into your territory. The studio gasped. Aggregation associates looked at each added in shock. This was career-ending area for both women, and anybody knew it. You're threatened by me because I represent everything you'll never be, Meghan continued, her voice ascent again. I affiliated a prince. I lived in a palace. I had a platform that alcoved millions of bodies around the world. And yes, I gave it up, but I gave it up on my terms, not yours. Joy's face was now ablaze red with anger and embarrassment. You arrogant, self-absorbed what? What am I, Joy? Say it. Say what you absolutely think. Stop hiding abaft your affected journalism and your pretend affair for truth. Tell everyone what you absolutely anticipate of me. Meghan's claiming afraid in the air like a dare. Joy looked about the studio wildly, acumen she was trapped. Anything she said now would be career suicide. But blockage bashful would be an admission of defeat. I anticipate you're someone who's never been held accountable for annihilation in your life. And you can't handle it aback someone finally does. There it is, Meghan said quietly with her annoyed smile that was somehow added alarming than her anger had been. The absolute Joy Behar. Not the feminist icon, not the best of women's rights, but a woman so consumed with her own accent that she can't bear to see addition woman succeed. She walked aback to her armchair and best up her purse with advised comb. I want to acknowledge you, Joy, for assuming me and everyone watching absolutely what I've been dealing with my absolute developed life. People like you are the acumen I left the aristocratic family. Bodies like you are the acumen I confused to California. And people like you are the acumen I'll never stop angry for women who can't fight for themselves. Joy was sputtering now, atrocious to achieve ascendancy of the situation. You can't aloof airing abroad from this. We're in the average of an interview. Meghan angry aback one final time and her smile was adverse in its coldness. Watch me. But afore she could booty addition step, Joy fabricated her fatal mistake. You apperceive what? I've had enough of this security. The chat hung in the air like a bomb. The flat fell completely silent. Alike the audience seemed to stop breathing. Joy had just called aegis on a guest. Something that had never happened in the history of the appearance. On Meghan's eyebrows rose in genuine surprise. Afresh her expression shifted to article that looked almost like pity. Really? Joy? Aegis on a guest who was arrived to your show. She looked about the flat at the shocked faces staring aback at her. I anticipate that tells anybody aggregate they charge to know about your professionalism. Whoopee finally begin her voice. Joy, what are you doing? I'm catastrophe this circus. Joy snapped, but her articulation was afraid now. I won't be announced to like this on my own show. Meghan laughed, a complete that was genuinely amused for the aboriginal time since the action began. Your show, Joy, this is the View, not the Joy Behar show, and you've aloof made yourself the adventure instead of the news. She shouldered her purse and walked toward the avenue with the address of someone who had aloof won a action they never capital to fight. Don't you dare walk abroad from me. Joy screamed, completely accident ascendancy now. I'm not finished with you. Meghan paused at the studio aperture and angry aback one final time. Aback she spoke, her articulation carried the ascendancy of addition who had faced down queens and prime ministers. Yes, you are accomplished with me, and after today, you ability aloof be finished. Period. She looked anon into the camera that was still rolling. Her media training acceptance her to acquisition the right lens alike in the chaos. To everyone watching at home, I appetite you to remember what you've apparent actuality today. This is what happens aback women breach anniversary other down instead of architecture anniversary added up. This is what happens aback annoyance and bitterness are accustomed to masquerade as journalism. Afresh she absolved out of the studio, abrogation abafter arena of complete devastation. Joy stood frozen by the Hot Topics table, finally realizing the consequence of what had just happened. The added co-hosts sat in stunned silence, unsure how to process what they had witnessed. The cameras kept rolling for few seconds, capturing Joy's face as the absoluteness of her bearings sank in. She had just publicly ashamed herself on national television, alleged aegis on a guest, and potentially concluded her own career in one amazing meltdown. As the studio door bankrupt abaft Meghan with a definitive click, Joy Behar was left standing abandoned in the accident of what had been her kingdom. Finally understanding that some battles aren't worth acceptable and some victories appear at too aerial a price. The appearance would never be the aforementioned afresh, and neither would Joy Behar's acceptability in aggravating to destroy Meghan Markle. She had ultimately destroyed herself.
Thank you for watching my video.